you talk about this idea of as the reopening happens, there won't be a normalcy, that what it will look like will be different in terms of the workplace, but nobody can quantify or adequately describe what that difference looks like.
Well, it's pretty simple in the sense that the tool that you used to shut it down was a sledgehammer. I mean, we saw what happened in Italy when the healthcare systems were overwhelmed. It was clear that we had no sense of the parameters of how big the outbreak actually was going to be. We didn't have the testing for it, so we just shut it all down. Reopening, we're not using a sledgehammer, we're using a scalpel. So this is fine tuning. This is a limited amount of taking your foot off the brakes and seeing what happens and watching over the course of a week, 2 weeks, to see if you still have comparatively limited number of cases. And as long as you do and it continues to plateau and reduce, then you can do a tiny bit more. And if you can't, you have to be prepared to start closing down again. Keep in mind that the country that has the most data, the most effective surveillance is China. They started to reopen and then they closed stuff down. I mean, you know, not just looking at Spain, look at the reopening of the movie cinemas. Then they were all closed. They opened some professional sports. They closed them back down. They opened some tourist attractions. They closed them back down. It will be less dramatic in Spain and Italy and eventually here in my own United States. But the same thing is going to happen. This isn't a waltz, my friend. It's a tango.
So, okay. So, firstly, where do you stand on this discussion and debate over the Chinese numbers? Apparently, UK intelligence and US intelligence and others, I suspect, all believe that the Chinese dramatically undercounted and underreported the number of deaths from the virus in the early stages. Do you too?
Oh, sure. I mean, you should put an asterisk next to any Chinese numbers you put up. It's like Barry Bonds and home runs, right? We don't trust those numbers. But what we do understand is, irrespective of whether the total number of deaths in Wuhan was 50% higher, 100% higher, 500% higher, what we know is that they are actually relaxing the crackdown, the quarantine, the complete lockdown of these individuals. They're doing it with extraordinary ability to socially distance on public transport, in restaurants, at the workplace. And they're also seeing that they're getting more cases. And so they have to bring that quarantine, that lockdown back up again. So I think it has less to do with the number of cases we're getting from China. We're never going to have comfort around that. It has more to do with watching how quickly the economy is getting restarted. Okay. It's about 70% right now, compared to more like 20% a month ago. And that we can actually watch with satellite imagery, with traffic patterns, as well as with CEOs and American businesses and multinational businesses that actually have engagement with all of these Chinese industry on the ground.
So if you now take that into the US and the EU, and accepting all you said about the way that businesses will reopen, what does that look like in practical terms? Let's push forward to September, October, November. Will people be back in their offices? Will remote working from home still be the de facto norm for the majority of people, do you think?
Look, if you're in the knowledge economy and you have the ability to work more or less functionally from home, until you have, serology tests that can determine a level of immunity at a very widespread base, I don't think you're getting large numbers of people coming back into the office. So I think but that's also very different from people that don't have a functional job unless they're able to come in. And that part of American industry, I think, is going to restart faster. It's going to restart maybe with more social distancing and everyone wearing masks and the rest at the workplace and the availability of tests. But, to make all of this happen, it's not just up to the private sector. You also have to have public infrastructure that works for these people. You have to be able to get kids to school. You got to have daycare. You have to have, subways and buses that can work and are safe. And you also have to have the doctors, Fauci, Birx, and others, who are saying that it's actually okay for you to go back to work. So there's several components of a restart, only one of which the companies themselves have real autonomy over.